my kids.
Okay, we'll get going here. This will be an open meeting, and notice has been given to the public at least 24 hours prior to the meeting and by forwarding the complete agenda to the O'Connell County Reporter. Copies of the complete agenda were available for inspection at the office of the city administrator. 6 p.m. public hearing for the following agenda. Number 1, resolution approving the discontinuance of portions of excess right-of-way of Whitetail Lane pursuant to Wisconsin Statute Section 66.1003. All parties for or against will be heard. Do we have any parties for or against?
I'm against.
Would you stand and state your name and address?
My name is James Belangi. My address is 5669 Whitetail Lane. I live on the end of the dead-end road in question. And about 8 years ago, the airport approached me to trade some of my land bordering the airport for this chunk of land in question and some more there. And it was my understanding, they surveyed the land. You can see the posts in there were surveyed. That was all my land after the deal. So I don't know why this is occurring, and I'm against it. There's no benefit to it. That's about all I got to say right now.
Okay. Do we have parties for it?
I might as well speak my piece. My name is Dave Retzloff, 106 Timber Trail, and we are the requester. Aside from we already have in our initial letter to the city, all I can add is that, first of all, it's not free. It's not being given. It's costing a lot of money for us to survey it. And secondly, as the map, I call it, shows the drawing, it's the sliver that is adjoining your property, which is mud, and the lake states like you say. So that portion is still city right of way. From the standpoint of it being a city right of way, it serves no purpose. It's strictly a sliver down to the end, so it really serves no purpose. Our intent is to do nothing with the property other than to just have more of a buffer in the event there's a development that occurs over the years on Whitetail. It provides us additional property buffer from the roadway.
If there is any development along there, there may be need to enlarge that road in the future. So therefore, you need to have that buffer there. If indeed it is a buffer, I argue with that even. I believe it's my land, no buffer.
Believes the property is his.
Yeah, well, I know this side definitely is.
Riley?
I just had a question, because we just had the plan commission meeting prior to this. Is there a reason why you weren't, didn't come to the meeting just to?
I didn't know anything about it.
Okay.
I mean, you know, if somebody wants that land, I'll sell it to them. But I'm not gonna give it away.
So your stance on this is you own the land, you own the
I
property?
believe I do. The airport deeded that to me. And if there's a right-of-way on there, the only right-of-way that I know of that ever went anywhere to the south from that corner was an old telephone right-of-way. And that was marked out through the woods and came out over on Frog Pond Road. And other than that, I never knew of any other right-of-way there. Of course, every road has a right of way, but, like I said, if I or somebody else wants to build in there, they wanna enlarge that road, that's the best place to go, that way.
Yeah, it's a 66-foot right-of-way, so just similar to city roads, most anyway. So currently, of course, right now it's a gravel road, but it is a 66-foot right-of-way, which we are not infringing upon. We are strictly taking that sliver, which is indicated in the county map, and it was just surveyed again.
Or-
Earl
to see
Hall and
it.
Paul Shell
Like
would
you said,
have known
your
that.
stakes are there,
Yeah, I don't know what
kind of
he's,
triangular in shape.
I think
goes
we
out
move
to a pie
forward and
shape.
then look into it.
there is a
afterwards.
problem under the
So
statute, because
we're-
the adjoining owner
Our intention, of course, that's your land.
objects to
Our
it. It
request
does cause
was
it as a problem under the statute.
property that adjoins
He's
that,
adjoining
part of
owner.
that
Not if it was part of their
quarter
property
section,
though.
which is,
That's what we look at.
we're on the east side of that quarter section line. So that property was originally part of ours. So I don't.
When was it part of yours?
When I say ours, I meant previous owners. That quarter section,
The airport
We can't
owns
get
that
into
as
a
far as I
discussion
know.
here.
you talking about where the subdevelopment is?
No,
Okay, that's what we're talking about.
oh,
Within
well,
within that quarter section, which red line indicates, and which we have drawn here.
Okay, just hold on, Dave. Bob?
That's basically city property. There's an easement there. Did you not take a survey
Yes, it's all surveyed,
from Paul Shell?
yes.
And all been taken care of. In order, it's basically, that survey, it was city property, because I believe we sent someone out there to make sure the water lines were proper. So I don't know where you would own that property if it was city.
the airport deeded it to
Well,
me.
yeah, but the airport, did the airport deed you the right person, a portion of that land? You know what I'm saying? How far does the airport, what portions of land did the airport deed you?
Where the stakes are, all the way along that pie-shaped deal. There's stakes in there where they surveyed it and deeded that to me.
It's been resurveyed and
You can survey and change stuff. Doesn't mean
well, I'm
that
sure people that
it's
survey
right.
aren't gonna change anything for someone. They're gonna do it the right way. That's why we have surveyors. Because they can do it. They know what they're doing. And if it was city property, it belongs to the city, and why not put it on the tax roll, even if it is a sliver, I don't care.
I pay taxes on that.
Well, if not, if it was the city's, I don't know, you say the airport gave you all this land.
They didn't give it to me, they
Well,
traded
we-
for some good
You
land.
exchanged, okay, you exchanged it,
I don't
Yeah.
know.
but did you
I don't
bring a survey map? Did you
I
have
know
it
on the
surveyed
GIS map, it
yourself?
shows the city.
The airport
The
surveyed
city
it.
owns it. So I don't know what, I don't,
And the stakes are still there. You're correct.
They are.
It is, your property is properly marked. However, we're talking about the sliver of land to the east of that. So it's not included in that.
The stakes go,
I'll be happy to go out there with you, Joy, on that.
there's a sliver of land between where the markings are and your property,
Correct.
not between the road and your property.
Right.
And where are the stakes to that?
Stakes to,
What you're saying is not mine.
Him right now?
it's,
he
your
has,
stakes are there.
Coming to here.
Therefore, everything
He has
is the city.
this, I believe this map.
It's just a sliver. Yeah. Boy, I can, we don't have a great picture here, of it. I don't know.
What do I do, send this back to Glenn?
No, I think we move forward.
John?
I got two questions. One, you should maybe give him time to go to the airport and get documents that said that's his. And Dave, who owns the lot behind you? Is that your lot too?
Oh, is it Wooded lot?
Toward north.
Yeah, we own that lot.
So you got two lots there. Them are both your lots.
He's looking,
Right.
he thinks there's a statue.
So,
that says adjoining.
But I don't think, he's only complaining because he thinks he owns it.
And that certified letter.
He doesn't own it.
Was the
He
map.
doesn't own it.
Given his complaint,
There
it
is
has
a
to be a
map.
two-thirds vote today.
Oh,
That
there's no
majority would
problem.
have to be a two-thirds.
Okay, yeah, there's no problem with that. I strongly suggest we move forward with it.
I have a question.
This is just the public hearing, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll
We would
discuss
just
it
take
further on the,
Any other?
on the item,
comments?
on the line item.
Keep moving.
Yep.
Any other?
Okay, is there any other additional pros or cons?
Can I just add, it's only less than 30 feet wide at the widest point, and then it's pie-shaped down to nothing. That's all it is.
Okay.
I got a question.
Steve?
I think it'd be beneficial for Dave to maybe just show him, because I think there's some confusion here as to what parcel we're talking about, to be honest with you. You know, before we make a, no,
Yeah, this is
My- My only,
Brittany?
maybe not. I don't-
my only suggestion on that is that we move forward with it and we'll still investigate what's going on. But in order to put this public hearing on here, it was a class 3 publication, meaning we publish it 3 times in the newspaper, which is very expensive. It was over $100 to do that. And we also sent out certified letters per state statute, which also was not cheap. So to save in cost, I would not want to publish again 3 times and put them through this mess again further. I would think we would want to move forward and then we can still investigate it. But it sounds like it's just a misunderstanding on the actual,
Was this approved in the August meeting when I wasn't here? This, turning the property over to them?
it was originally approved.
Because I could have sworn we said no.
And after that, we said to go
It
ahead.
must have been in
You
August.
said
when I wasn't
yes,
here.
but then it got kind of strange because it was city right away. We didn't know it was city right away. We thought we just owned the property. Because it's city right away, we had to do that publication and stuff. And the council did vote yes to do that, so that's what we went ahead and did.
Gotcha.
So I would lose all this.
I'm going to ask for a third time. Is there any more public input? Okay, thank you.
We need a motion to close.
Okay, can I get a motion to close?
So moved.
John? Second by Butch. Discussion? Vote?
Am I gonna be able to go and, get my papers that show the, survey from the airport?
Sure.
Is that gonna matter at all?
I think it does.
Yeah, at this point, I mean, we're taking the information from Paul Shallow is who we're taking the information from, but that's up to you.
We had a motion to close.
Vote.
Okay, vote.
Butch Melberg. Steve Stock.
Aye.
John Wickoff.
Aye.
Patsy Bake. Riley Soul.
Aye.
Bob LeBrecq.
Okay, moving on. Meeting of the regular council with the following agenda. Meeting called to order. Roll call.
Mayor Panetti.
Here.
Butch Melberg.
Here.
Steve Stock.
Here.
John Wickoff.
Here.
Patsy Bake. Riley Soul.
Here.
Bob LeBrecq.
Here.
Attorney Calvert.
Here. Mr. Belangi, just so you know, that was just the public hearing. That was now a decision on this.
So you're gonna have another hearing?
It's on the agenda for the council meeting
When?
tonight.
You're gonna have another meeting tonight?
Yeah.
on this?
This meeting.
This meeting tonight, yes.
Okay, item 3, invocation of a pledge of allegiance by Alderperson Butch Melberg.
Dear Lord, as we head into another tight budget, give us the knowledge to make the best decisions for the people of O'Connell. Amen.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Approval on the agenda. I'm going to pull number 10 and 11, reschedule 10 and 11.
Do you want to flip
Yeah.
those two? Yeah.
And I'd like to make the request to put 9B ahead of 9A. It's just the correct order to do things. Approve them in there. Oh, I'm
How
sorry.
about C and D?
C and D, 9D and 9C. So we'll do 9D first and then 9C. Please.
Okay, is there any additional agenda? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Motion by LeBrecq, second by Stock. All in favor? Okay. Item 5, approval of minutes as presented by City Council and any special council meetings. Okay, I have a motion. Second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Vote?
Butch Melberg. Steve Stock. John Wickoff. Patsy Bake.
Aye.
Riley Soul. Bob LeBrecq.
Aye.
Okay, item 6, correspondence. Do we have any correspondence? Do we have any correspondence? Riley?
We've got some interviews apparently coming up for the department head, Public Works, and some other positions. And I know we just had a Wage and Personnel Committee meeting recently where we had one applicant for the Public Works. But it sounds like some more have come in. And there's supposed to be some interviews happening on that, which I can't make because of my work schedule on Thursday, but I thought the whole point of why we hired the Wage and Personnel, or reinstated the Wage and Personnel, was so that they were involved in the interviewing and the hiring process of, especially the department head levels. And I know at the time we read the applications for the two different things, which was awesome and very helpful. But I'd like the chance to read through the additional applications and look at that before the hiring process starts, or be included in the interview or whatever process. I think that's what we were moving towards when we did the Wage and Personnel Committee for these department head positions. I do think we should all be there for these interviews. Or like we had talked about, the possibility of, if we can't get enough applicants for an important job, looking at maybe an outside independent agency to recruit or hire, something like that. But basically, I just want to stay on task for doing things within the proper channels, which I had just looked to double check in our ordinances about the Wage and Personnel Committee, and just for the record, the duties of the Wage and Personnel Committee, section 225F6 says to meet at such intervals as deemed necessary to properly carry out its functions and responsibilities, including advertising, interviewing, and hiring of all employees. So I just feel it defeats the purpose to go about another round of hiring and not have the Wage and Personnel Committee be doing the interviews for that.
Is that an ordinance that you just read?
Yeah, 2-2-5. Brittany's got a question.
I feel like every time we talk about this, there's a different consensus coming at me. I'm trying to do exactly what you guys are telling me, but it seems like you keep changing it, which is very frustrating. Yes, the Wage and Personnel Committee has made the motion to advertise. You have told me who the interview committee should be. You have been a part of the whole process. I'm not sure what more you want. You're more than welcome to come in and look at the applications that came in anytime tomorrow, or there's one interview tomorrow and one on Thursday. We're interviewing every application that we got for that position. So if you want to get maybe some kind of policy in place, listing out the steps, if you want a Wage and Personnel Committee after every single step, that's up to you. You're the people on that committee. But I really feel like every time we talk about this, you change your mind on something. So if you could just maybe get a written policy in place, that would be awesome.
Yeah, and I don't mean to make anyone's life difficult. I know the last time we were hiring for this position was right before I was in office, and as soon as I got in, I recognized that it was a bit of a mess, and wanted to make sure that moving forward we did things, right according to the letter of the ordinance. And at times not everyone has agreed with me up here, which is fine, but I'm just reiterating what I have said before, wanting to be more involved in the hiring process of the important positions like the department heads. And it says right here that that's the group to do it, and that's why we made the push to get back going, so that those key positions the council had a chance to see and be more involved, other than just taking the recommendation of the hiring committee, which I don't know if that was in the minutes saying that we approved a hiring committee or who was on it or any of that stuff. I don't remember any of that specifically. I remember saying I wanted to invite Daryl and some other people to our wage and personnel committees to assist in that process. But I just wanted to read that.
I guess my question, I'm sorry for my frustration. It's just we keep trying to do things the right way, and then we keep getting blindsided by different things. It's frustrating because we are so short-staffed. We're wearing many hats right now. It's a lot. So what you're saying is you want the interview committee to be 6 council members, the mayor, myself, and the Board of Public Works Director. You want 9 people on the interview team? Is that what you're saying?
To question leaders.
I think in corporate America, it's not uncommon for people interviewing for higher up positions to have to sit in front of a whole bunch of important people. And I think it's important for the decision makers, this group, for those key level positions to actually be present for the interviews. That's how I feel. I would like to be sitting on it to make a better decision, other than just, again, we trust our subcommittees, but it would be nice to be present for some of these interviews. I don't see why we can't. And I don't mean to cause a big delay, but I remember having this exact same conversation a few months ago, the last time we went through this.
Steve?
Well, personally, I've never interviewed anybody in my life, so I would be opt-out on an interview team as far as input on something like that. As an alderman, if you want to be on that committee, I know you said you wanted Daryl on the committee. We talked about this, I believe, at one of the other meetings, the mayor, Brittany, whoever. But personally, I mean, I don't want to be involved with that particular, part.
Riley?
I totally understand. I 100% understand. And that's why when we were figuring out the composition of the wage and personnel and the
Sit in
finance
if you
committee,
want.
why
Yeah,
I
just
didn't
sit in.
think that
Well, I don't
all
think
of us
he
should
knows.
be on the wage
Right.
and personnel
Well, yeah,
committee.
he
That's
does.
why I thought it should just have been a few.
Well, I got
Same for the
an
finance
issue if
committee,
that's
because we
what the
don't all
ordinance
have to
says.
sit
How did
through
we get
Right.
away from
all the
ordinance?
details of these positions and the financials.
Because
Same for the
wage
financials.
and personnel
We shouldn't all have to sit
directed
through every
to
single
do
last
with the
little line
hiring
item on the finance. That's why.
It says that they're in charge.
Right.
They
Four
make
of
the
us on the
committee.
finance committee.
We already had this
So
conversation
I think we
at Wage and Personnel.
we should have had less than the entire council on the wage and personnel committee to begin with. And I'd be open to changing that if you didn't want to, or anyone else didn't want to. I think we should consider the composition of these subcommittees to get it right.
Bob?
If you really want to get it right, you want to read the ordinances, let's read all of them. The wage and personnel had 6 elected officials. And the finance committee also had 6 elected officials on it. Then you decided to move with 4 elected officials, voted on an ordinance, basically threw it out by putting a non-voting member on there, which you then went and made the vice chairman of the finance committee. No. If you're gonna listen to him, you can start listening to me. I know you don't like me anymore, and I really don't care. I'm here for the people of O'Connell. That's who I serve. I don't serve individuals. So basically, what you want to do.
State your
the
facts.
The wage and personnel was there that I brought back for a buffer between employees and what was happening between you and them. Now, the wage and personnel should have been, if there's only 6, 6. That's what it had on your ordinances in your big blue book. It's down there. And you should have had 6 people on the finance committee. If that's what you're gonna do it right. You said you wanna do it right, let's do it right. I mean, you can pick and choose anything you want in the ordinances, but if you really wanna do it right, let's do it right. I don't care who's on the wage and personnel. We all, 9 people interviewed, each one with a series of questions, is almost to the point of ridiculous. Even when you go into a business type setting, they have maybe 3 or 4 people that you interview in. And I did it at Fort Howard. There wasn't the whole department. There was 3 or 4 people that did the interviewing process. And then your name went in, and they took names out of a pool. I'm sure not everybody in that particular department got to be in there.
That should be part of it.
But let's do things right. If you really want to do things right, let's start doing it right. Okay? I'm with you. Let's do it right. You want 6 people or not 6 people on wage and personnel? 6 people or not 6 people? But if you make an ordinance and you say 4 people, you don't change it on that particular night to add a non-voting member. I'm
I'm
sure.
going to move on here. Riley, you got an ordinance, you're reading an ordinance that he's ad-libbing. Read that ordinance again.
Duties of the Wage and Personnel Committee, Section 2-2-5, F6, to meet at such intervals as deemed necessary to properly carry out its functions and responsibilities, including advertising, interviewing, and hiring of all city employees. And I also am the chairman of that group, so it's not too big of an ask. And as I said to Steve, I thought that group shouldn't have been the whole entire council to begin with. Then it wouldn't be 9 people interviewing 1 person. It might only be a half a dozen. I think we didn't get it right by putting all of us on the Wage and Personnel Committee. That's what I think. So if we want to go and change things, we can change things. But that's where I would start with.
Frank?
The Wage and Personnel has designated 4 people in which to interview, 4 people that make sense, okay? Now, from the standpoint of Wage and Personnel or participating in the interview process, etc., any of you can be there.
And I said that at the wage and personnel.
Be
meeting.
there, sit there, listen what's going on, but there's only 4 that are going to be asking questions. The 4 that know the most about this position and what's required of it and have been set forth to do this interview from Wage and Personnel. But the rest of you can be there. Mm-hmm. If you want to be there, Steve, or if you don't want to be there, be there. Riley, you can be there. And participate in the interviews by listening to each of the people.
Who?
I should be able to ask questions.
Well, we have to ask the same
If you
questions
have
to every
questions
single
that
applicant.
you wish to ask, then just give them to anybody. But we don't need 9, 10 people asking questions. You can hand your question to one of the others to ask it for you.
I had the same exact question and concern months ago, the last time I was around. I said, I feel as a new council member, I should be able to be involved in the interviewing and hiring of these key positions. We just had a Wage and Personnel Committee meeting. At the time, we only had 1 application, and we reviewed it, which was great. but now there's interviews happening, and now I'm feeling that the Wage and Personnel Committee is left out of the interviewing and hiring process when,
We had this discussion at the Wage and Personnel meeting. We set up the interview team. We discussed who was going to be on it. And I said, you're welcome to be there, Riley, because I know that it means a lot to you. I said that. We had this discussion, so I don't know why it's coming up now and you're acting surprised with who's on the hiring committee. We had this discussion. Wage and Personnel made the decision, told me to advertise. I advertised. We had the discussion on who should be on the interview team. Great, I listened to you. Then you're going to make the decision on who we're hiring, on who the interview team, their recommendation to you. We're following all the right steps. So I don't know why this is coming now when we're the week of hiring. It's like you're trying to delay the process, and we need a superintendent in that position. So I don't understand why we had this conversation and now you're changing it, or now you're second guessing it. Wage and Personnel had this discussion. You were there. I don't understand.
John? Yeah, a question for Riley. I guess I don't remember the interview team. I don't remember that being approved by us. I don't remember that coming to the Wage and Personnel Committee.
was there a vote on that?
Do you remember? Do you remember if that was approved? I don't remember that. Do you?
I don't recall voting on it. I mean,
Well, that's what I'm getting
we
at.
have talked about it.
How
That's-
did we get an interview team? I mean, I'm just gonna say, did they say, okay, this is on it and that was it? I don't know. I don't know who voted on it. I don't remember. I'm not saying we did, but I do not remember.
And that's how I feel the same way. I don't remember voting on who this.
Not saying it's a
interview
bad
was.
team.
I
I
wanted,
don't mean that.
I wanted key members to join the Wage and Personnel Committee meeting to form that. But I don't remember voting on an interview committee.
I'm not saying that the committee's wrong. I'm just saying I don't remember voting on it. I'm not trying to say that they're not the ones that should be doing it. I'm just saying I don't remember voting on that. That's all I'm saying.
The interview committees for either position were not voted on. It was simply a discussion by Wage and Personnel.
Oh,
Or could we have a second round of interviews? The first team can do theirs, and then the second, it's not uncommon to have 2 rounds of interviews for an important job. Otherwise, I don't see why did we even form the Wage and Personnel Committee, when we might as well just get rid of it again. What's the point of it?
I think they got things set up already this time, like Brittany said, if somebody wants to be there, we're welcome to be there. Just that we're listening, not asking, that's all.
Bob?
What would it take to dissolve the Wage and Personnel and Finance Committee, as long as you don't want it?
An ordinance and vote. Just an ordinance.
Maybe
and
we should put an
retract it.
ordinance and then vote on it. To dissolve the Wage and Personnel Committee and the Finance Committee, and then you won't have this anymore.
Why are you going to take on why you roll the finance?
Well, because basically, when I brought the Finance Committee back, it was for a buffer to help the employees and what was happening down here. That's all. In fact, I didn't care if the Finance Committee was formed or not, because basically the city, the committee of the whole and the city get the same information anyway on finance. I mean, that's all it is a courtesy for 4 people to be there.
Can't
I went
we-
for the Wage and Personnel, and the Wage and Personnel, I believe you or somebody else who said, well, why not the Finance Committee? Well, I can give you a couple of reasons for the Finance Committee, but I just won't tonight. And
Steve?
I don't know, my assumption was the Wage and Personnel Committee that we were gonna refine the employee handbook and go through all that when we get together and take care of stuff like that. You know, why can't 2-2-5 be changed to, for the interview part, for the interview team? You know, consisting of, whatever team we feel is for that department at the time. I don't know.
To change
I'm
that.
just changing the 2-2-5, which Riley read out before. Why can't we refine that 2-2-5 we could still keep our wage and personnel committee and do the things that we need to do as far as looking at the employee handbook that's outdated, needs to be redone. You know, looking at wages, you know, for our city employees, you know, where they should be or where we need to go with them. You know, I don't know, it's just a suggestion, you know, that for the hiring committee, if say Riley has a very strong interest in being on that committee, on that hiring team, then you should be on that team, along with, you know, Brittany and Mayor and whoever else, if Butch wanted to be on it or whatever. I agree with you on that. So, but I do agree with Bob a little bit. I think that 9 people or 10 people in there for an interview of that, I think that's a lot. I know my wife, when she goes to interview people at her line of work, it's her boss and one other gal. There's 3 of them interviewing. And, you know, they're interviewing
Sure.
for positions that are
I don't know if you can
equivalent
do
to
that,
the
though.
pay scale of what we're looking at and even above.
Change his
I
schedule
mean,
then.
so I don't know. Maybe we need to retune that 2-2-5. I don't, just an option.
Riley?
Yeah, I mean, I'm open, I'm with Steve, like, I think if we need to change something to suit the needs,
Right.
then we shouldn't be afraid or shy to do that. If it's make a simple change to get it
Right.
right, then let's make a simple change and we'll get it right. But sometimes we have a hard time agreeing on what.
Well, we do, but you know,
That's
that's our
the-
job. We're not supposed to agree with each other.
Right. But yeah, I'm
100%, right?
100% in favor of making a change. If we need a change to happen, we can make a change and we shouldn't be afraid.
It was
Would-
just a suggestion.
John?
Why can't we just move forward the way it is right now, and then we talk about the handbook, we put that on the wage and personnel, and then we can talk about it, and if we need to change it, we can change it as we go. But as of right now, I'm sure Brittany's got a lot of time involved in this and stuff, so that's just, my recommendation would be just go ahead and do what we've been doing.
Okay, that's one option. Riley, would this work if I step off of there and you take my spot
For
the interview?
You can't be here on Thursday, though.
Yeah, I mean, I would have to make special arrangements to be here on Thursday, but,
Oh,
Let's just get through this one, put it back on wage and personnel, and we'll talk about it later.
Well, I think we have to get these interviews going and
Yeah.
get them done with, right? So we can take some of the pressure off of other people.
well, it's just three people for
Yeah,
this
I mean,
position
if
right
you
now.
want, you can get the times from her and the meetings that you can make for them interviews. I would highly suggest that you go to that then. Would be my recommendation.
Can't put the city on hold
So
because you got
how
special
how can we
arrangements.
avoid this same exact conversation happening again the next time the next job comes up?
Well, that's what I say, we'll put it back on wage and
Put it-
personnel, and we'll.
Or put it
define
on
the
the
way we
agenda
want.
for next month about maybe looking at that ordinance.
changing the 2.25?
Yep,
Yeah.
and fine tuning it.
Yeah, I'm all for a hiring committee and whatever. I'm for reducing the size of the wage and personnel committee as well, but, I think if this is an issue, as long as I'm here, every time a big position interview comes up, I'm gonna be like, hey, it's gonna be a broken record every time until we fix it.
Well, we all know that a lot of the ordinances within our municipality are probably some of them need to be looked at and fine tuned a little bit. I mean, Bob can probably contest to that.
I'd be happy to have.
For the sake of-
Speak on Fridays.
Riley, for the sake of time, are you okay with moving on since we're at the 11th hour and
Sure.
and then we'll change 2.25 to meet basically
I
what
think
we'll modify
It would be a
it?
great start to
Okay.
fix the problem instead of just
Okay,
pulling through it every time it happens. Let's just
Right.
fix it.
Yeah,
Because it'll change every time. when she
Okay.
sets something up.
right.
okay. Do we have any additional correspondence? Okay, public input. I'll allocate 5 minutes, one time only. I'm gonna ask you to stand up state your name and address. I will dismiss any of the audience that's out of line or any of the aldermen that taunt the audience. So do we have any public input?
Jamie Younger, 518 First Street. I'm actually gonna go back. Bob was talking about an ordinance for the finance committee. I was at that meeting. I believe that he talked in depth about changing the ordinance, but now Riley's interested in changing ordinances where before he wasn't. I'm pretty sure that this ordinance was set up by the same group, and Riley, Patsy, and John, you all voted on that, let the city pay for it, file it, and you just turned around and you went against it. So as far as following ordinances, not to be rude, but close the book, because we ain't following any of them right now. I have seen so many ordinances violated since I've been coming to these meetings, it's ridiculous. Next, I know that last month I also said that I was going to file a petition to get some signatures and do a recall election to remove our mayor. I have decided against that because I am responsible with money, unlike some people. But one thing that I am gonna do is I'm gonna spend the next 7 months making sure this city knows exactly what has been voted for and who is for them and who is against them. John, for real, when you have people here that are talking about the city's finances as our mayor, when you sit and you tell him that we're making interest-only payments because you spend that little time actually looking into what's being done, that's embarrassing. It's horrible. And Bob, like any of these other people, is an elected official here. He is an elected alderman. So I would appreciate it if just because he doesn't agree with you, you don't cut him off every time I'm here, because I've seen that too. If they don't agree with you, they're done, they can't talk. Well, I for one voted for him because he's standing here and he's fighting for the city. And I'm gonna stand here and I'm gonna fight back so that the city gets taken back from all the people who aren't really interested in running it. I have heard so much in the last 6 months, it literally would turn a person's stomach. Riley, I don't know where you're going with half of your ordinance things to be involved in this. Dia is nothing against you in the finance committee, it isn't. Bob simply asked you to sit down and rewrite the ordinance. None of you wanted to, you just wanted to violate a new ordinance you created. Now you want to sit down and fix them because you want to do things right. In that same meeting, one of the council members said, the problem was they were new council members who didn't know the ordinances that well, and they made a mistake. And you said, well, let's change that. And then you turn around and you all go right against it. So maybe it's time the city knows who's for this place and who isn't. Because if you voted against an ordinance that you voted to file, then you should have never wasted the city's money. And I don't care if it's $50, I don't care if it's $80, I don't care if it's 10. Stop wasting city funds. You talked about getting an outside agency to do the hiring. That costs money. It's ridiculous. You have the personnel here. Start thinking about it.
Okay, do we have any additional public input? Diane?
Diane Moda, 151 Mott Street, also on Park and Rec. And I've been to these meetings that we get really beat up on too. This weekend, I got beat up on that. Thank you, John, you got the blame for it. The rate's going up at the Holtwood, because we discussed buy one, get one free, we cut out a month. You got thanked for that one too, and I like to correct the record. He had nothing to do with that, right? We voted it in, we did it on our own. Now, as a city, all I hear is out with the old guys and with the new. We got it. Our new guys made a few mistakes, but listening tonight, you want to work on it, you want to, change these ordinances, please do it. Because we had these problems way back in 2008 on some of this. Never got changed. We had the financial problem back then. Never got changed. You're voting on a bond that's from 2015. Who was mayor then? I can tell you who was mayor. I can even tell you who the aldermen were. You have to take this on please do. I think you're doing a great job, and don't leave us. Yeah, you too. Stick with us now. You've gotten beat up, get the knives out of your back. Let's go and take care of it. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Okay, do we have any additional public input? Second time, additional public input. And the third time, do we have any additional public input? Okay, moving on. 8, approval of consent agenda. 8A, department reports as presented.
You can go through all of them.
Okay, 8B, accounts payable for the month of August 2023 in the amount of $459,940.20. Payroll for the month of August 2023 in the amount of $167,586.54, and other financial reports as presented. 8C, approval of an invoice from Aqualis for the amount of $9,455.50 for manhole rehabilitation. 8D, approval of the invoice from Robert E. Lee in the amount of $13,084.09 for WWTP improvements. Okay, I have a motion by Stock to approve, a second by Butch. Discussion? Okay, vote.
Butch Melber,
Aye.
Steve Stock, John Wickoff, Patsy Bake, Riley Soul, Bob LeBrecq.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. Moving on to 9, discussion, action, and recommendation on the following. Discussion and possible action to seek finance through the Board of Commissioners of Public Lands to finance the refunding of the outstanding taxable general obligation refunding bond serial 2015 in the amount of $305,000. Brittany?
Okay, so after a lot of research on this and trying to figure out what our best plan forward would be, I'm going to ask that you don't make a motion on this because I do not think we need to borrow. I know we do not need to borrow this money. It's going to cost us a lot in interest, and it's going to cost us a lot for Ellers to take this out. We don't need it. So I was thinking, instead of how do we not have to borrow from the utility, what are better options than that? And I found a good solution. We budgeted $300,000 in our capital improvements plan because we were supposed to do 2 street projects this year. Because we haven't had a superintendent for most of 2023, we did 1 street project this year. We have about $180,000 still budgeted in that account. I think we should use that money. It cost us $0 to use that.
Or are you gonna come up with the rest?
That's all we need. We originally thought it was $300,000 because when we budgeted for the debt, we asked Jeff Belangi, who was our financial advisor, how much we could lower that by so we didn't have to increase taxes that much. He told us about $300,000. Okay, so we budgeted $300,000 less. Going over the budget, the TIF district will be getting some money in. It'll be getting some taxes in. So some of those taxes will go against this payment. So after those taxes come in and go against that payment, it'll be around $125,000. Well under that $180,000 that we'll have left in there.
Well, this is good news, obviously.
Yeah,
Obviously.
it is.
Going back to the 300,000, I mean, basically was to cover the overrun of police and fire, which was $271,000 in the budget, or in the audit. They were over by 271.
No, well, in their expenses, they were over by 271, but in their revenues, they were also over. So their revenues that they were over covered their expenses that they were over. to fix that in the future so that doesn't show up on the financial statement as, wow, this is a big deficit in this expense. We're going to do budget adjustments appropriately. So what you do when you do I talked with our CPA on this at CLA. When you do a budget adjustment, and the airport also did this, we're selling more gas than we thought we were going to sell. So yes, we're spending more to buy this gas, but look at all this revenue coming in. We didn't predict that this would happen. We do a budget adjustment that ups the revenues and ups the expenses the same exact amount, so we're still budgeting 0. So we're still doing what we're supposed to do, but now at the end of the year, this looks appropriate. It looks like we're meeting the number that we should be because we have more information, we can budget more appropriately. It doesn't affect taxes, it doesn't affect anything on the audit, it just makes it look appropriately. When we know something's wrong, we can fix it, and then it will portray correctly when we get the audit. A good example of that is we're going to be doing that with the ambulance this year. We're doing a different way of recording it on the books. So we're going to do a budget adjustment, lower revenues, lower expenses, the same exact amount. It stays at 0. It doesn't affect anything. It just makes it look more accurate at the end of the year.
So what you're saying is the ambulance won't go over budget then?
Well, that's the plan, yeah. Yeah, they're not at this point, so that's the plan. They're projected to be under budget. Almost every single line item is projected to be under budget this year, which is fantastic and a first, so.
But the money that you're talking about here is solely with regard to paying off the 2015 bond.
Correct.
We weren't taking out money to make up some budget.
Right.
Correct,
It's
correct.
solely
yeah.
to pay off the bond this year.
Right,
So that bond will be done
yes,
That'd be huge.
yep.
without having to take this 305 out.
Mm-hmm.
This. Okay, so that handles finance side of it, but there's another side of it. I'd like to see on police and fire how do we correct that? I mean, what actions are they taking to improve efficiencies? I mean, I looked at that 271 when I brought that up in your office in that meeting, and I was told that was all overtime. Well, heck, that's about three people working overtime 52 weeks a year.
The 271 wasn't solely from overtime, definitely, absolutely not. Do not think that. And it wasn't really an overage because their revenues covered that expense. The revenues were up, there was more calls, you're getting more money, you're gonna have higher expenses. So yes, you are correct, they were over in their overtime account. And I agree with you that maybe there are some efficiencies that can be looked at. I don't know enough about fire to speak to that. However, looking at the history of that overtime account, every single year, every department head was told, hold the line, don't change your budget. If you're going over it, that's too bad, we're not gonna adjust it for you. Well, that's not realistic. When an account is going over every single year and you can't control it, sometimes you can't control how many calls you get, you have to go out and save people. Sometimes your gas goes over, you can't not use your vehicles. You need to adjust that budgeted number appropriately. And we did make a huge step in that this year by raising it up to an appropriate level where now it's more obtainable, it's more realistic. So it does go to both sides that yes, we need to be more realistic with budgeting. Sometimes you can't control it. And sometimes you can, you're absolutely right.
And you'll be able to review that in the coming month.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're going to review all these budgets in the coming month. The ones for 2024 versus how they're doing in 2023.
I think Steve?
Just like last year's budget, some of them had to tighten the rope a little bit, and try to stay a little bit more, she's saying every line item right now is looking pretty good with the departments, that's a plus.
Okay. So your recommendation is to put the Eilers on hold?
You don't need to, I think, correct, Frank, since we're not approving it, we don't need to make a motion at all. We can just, we're done with it. We're not gonna take it out and we're just gonna move on.
Just eliminate it.
Yep.
Okay. 9B, approval of application for temporary Class B retailer's license from McChickeny Players for Blitz Spirit on October 13th to the 15th, 2023, and October 20th to 22nd on 2023.
So moved.
Second, discussion. Vote.
Butch Melberg,
Aye.
Steve Stock,
Aye.
John Wickoff, Patsy Bake, Riley Soul,
Aye.
Bob LeBrecq.
Aye.
Okay, motion passed. 9C, a resolution approving the discontinuance of portions of excess right-of-way of Whitetail Lane pursuant to Wisconsin statute, section 66.1003.
Frank, would you like to speak or do you want me to speak?
The only thing I would say that I was looking up with regard to the statute, given the objection that was heard in the public hearing, that does require then a 2/3 vote with regard to this matter, whatever you end up doing. So, not a majority vote, it would be 2/3, so it would have to be 4 of 6 of you.
Brittany?
I don't know if you guys remember this, but this was that little piece of land that we originally voted that we thought that the city owned it. We were going to give it to them for the cost of the easement pay, and deed work and those costs. Then we found out when we pursued that further, Paul Shallow let us know it's not just city-owned land, it's actually public right-of-way. When they were doing that street project, something changed in the plans, I believe, and then that they didn't use that area. Now it's just public right-of-way. So what we had to do is a class 3 publication, send out letters to discontinue that as public right-of-way, and then we can deed it to Dave and Teresa. So that's what we're doing. We're doing an easement in there so we can access the lines that we need to access, and there'll also be
For the fire hydrant.
for the fire hydrant that's there as well. So this is just that you guys made the motion on many, many months ago now. This is coming back after all the publications we had to do.
John?
How can we pass this here if he comes back up with documentation that says that he owns that property?
Well, if he owns it, then we can't deed it over. But until we know
Why
that he
would we-
owns it,
Why would we approve this then?
That's up to you. Like I said, as far as we know at this point, this is city-owned land and
Yeah.
part of the right-of-way for Whitetail Trail.
Well, I just don't want to have another one of these city made a mistake things.
but then correct, the motion would be void if we did not own this property. If we don't move forward with the vote now, we have to republish everything, resend everything out, which will be hundreds of dollars.
But if we
So if he
publish
comes back
it,
with the proper paperwork, this is voided.
Right, if we don't own it, we can't deed it
Okay,
to
just wanna
them.
make sure of that.
Right, Frank,
Yeah,
correct?
if Mr. Belangi comes in with the proper paperwork saying that documentation is that it's his land, then what we decide here tonight would be null and void, right? It would be,
Yeah, the one that I would put on hold is the next one. You can't prove a certified survey map attaching it to those pieces if it's owned by somebody else.
Which that one is no publications.
Yeah.
So I would be okay with that.
Okay.
okay.
can we,
Okay, so we'll approve, okay, approve.
John?
can we approve this with the stipulation that the city does own that property?
Sure.
That's a good
I
idea.
mean, just in case,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
put a stipulation in there?
Sure.
Do you,
I'll make that motion.
hold on, John, do you want to give him 30 days or 60 days to come up with this?
Want to come up, well, he said the airport already surveyed it, you should be able to go over there, you should be able to talk to Frank or somebody over there and find out right away.
I don't care where the survey stakes are. All I care is what's recorded at the Register of Deeds
Right.
office.
Right.
Right.
2 weeks be more than enough?
Don't you have paperwork out there with land airport has?
Not if it was deeded to somebody else. I have what was deeded to the
The
airport.
right.
I don't have what was deeded to somebody else.
Oh, you-
Yeah.
But it would be on file with the Register of Deeds, so it's whatever the Register of Deeds says.
Yeah,
2 weeks is fair enough?
yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Do I have to come to another meeting or just let somebody?
You'll
know?
just-
You can just come see me
Come see
at
her.
the front office.
Will do.
I'll make that motion. Stipulation that give 2 weeks
2 weeks?
to verify.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Second by Butch. Discussion? Vote?
Butch Melberg,
All right?
Steve Stock,
Aye.
John Wickoff,
Aye.
Patsy Bake,
Aye.
Riley Soul, Bob LeBrecq.
Aye.
Okay, 9D, approval of certified survey map for Dave Retzloff and Teresa Bake located in the city of O'Connell.
I think we have to, we table that then, or what?
I just would bypass this. There's, for Dave and Teresa, I mean, there's really nothing wrong, but let's just clarify this and
Because the other part-
then this can just be put on and passed the next meeting.
Okay, so this is bypass. Okay. 13, adjournment.
So move.
Second,
I'll second.
Riley. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.